Welcome back, folks, to the Mail Right Show. It's episode 145. We've got a great guest here, folks. We've got Phil Singleton here, and he wrote a book called SEO for Growth, and we're going to have a binge about how we can get you great SEO, and which leads to great leads. Phil, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, so my name's Phil Singleton. I've been running a small, boutique agency based in Kansas City here for the last 12, 13 years. Very unconventional path to digital. Basically almost flunked out of computer science in college. Got an insurance company job right out of school. That didn't last long because I was miserable. Ended up moving to Asia for like 10 years. Towards the end of that stint, I got introduced to like SEO and the internet stuff. Just kind of a company, just basically an opportunity fell into my lap. And I kind of learned SEO and a little bit of web design on the fly. Flash forward a little bit from that time, 2005, moved back to Kansas City. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was 35 years old at the time. Ended up doing like a barter website for an auto detailer. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was like, I can do this. I've seen SEO work at this company I was working for before. And I figured, hey, you know what? If I can't do this for this guy on my own, if I can't self-study my way to a one-page website, I'll hire somebody to do it. Well, I ended up doing it about 60, 90 days later. This is back in 2005, and if you just put a little bit of effort and it was pretty easy to rank stuff. It's a little different game right now. But it happened. He ranked really quickly, and the guy went from making $25 a car, selling these really almost making nothing to auto detailers, to being able to sell $200 details to the retail market. So he called me up and said, "Phil, you changed my business. You've changed my life." And I was like, boom, 35. I finally know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm going to be a web design and SEO guy. So, and that's what happened. That one little barter website's turned into literally hundreds of custom websites that we've done now. Got scores of SEO clients, and I've gone off now trying to do my own personal branding and authority and book writing. It's funny because I'm an introvert by nature. So, 5 or 6 years ago, before Penguin and Panda and all these punitive things came out, I was like, could do stuff from the bat cave without ever showing my face. But it's a different world right now. Now we're all putting ourselves, we're on podcasts, we're writing books, we're doing all sorts of stuff. We're putting our face everywhere, and that's just the way it is now. So that's my story.
Oh, that's right, Phil. You're introverted, all right. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Robert. Robert, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. I'm the founder of Inbound Real Estate Marketing, and I've spent the last 10 years focusing on becoming an online marketing expert, specifically within the vertical of real estate. And I have also founded a service-based company that builds websites and does SEO called Inbound REM. But if anybody is interested, just go to the website, and I have massive amounts of content there, so everybody can check that out.
That's great. And I'm the founder of MailRight. We're a marketing software platform that's specifically aimed at the real estate industry and agents like you, and we get quality leads for you, mostly through also combining our efforts with Facebook. Back to Phil. So Phil, the main thread of this episode is going to be SEO, search engine optimization, and websites. So in the industry, a lot of agents, there's a few people saying that you don't really need a website. It doesn't really matter anymore, or you can just use the kind of one-page template that your broker provides you, and that's fine. What do you think about some of these people saying that, and why do you think, if you do think, it's still really important in branding and in SEO and in marketing in general for agents to look at having their own website?
Well, I think it's really important because I think there's different ways to skin the digital marketing cat, and the way that we do it is really, you're trying to create. To me, first of all, we're all website companies now. It's one of the things I look at, and it's really tough for somebody that believes a website is kind of an asset versus a digital brochure type of a thing that you would try and put your content up somebody else on a one-page site, or treat it like a digital brochure. Because really, the way that we found to win for ourselves and for our clients, and just looking at other people that have done it, is to create a website that's your own asset that becomes a marketing platform for yourself, but also the referral source for all of your content. So one of the things that drives me crazy about marketing and digital in general today is you see a lot of folks that still treat their websites as kind of static digital brochures, or they'll do the one-page thing, and they're just looking for the most cost-effective thing to have a digital like business card out there. And if they invest anything on content, they put their best stuff up on somebody else's platform, where it kind of just is seen in real time, maybe, and then kind of passes through that river of real time, and then never gets documented somewhere where it can be an answer to somebody's question or build social equity, SEO equity up. So we want to try and tell everybody to say, hey, your website is a digital asset. You should put all your best content on there and share it out that way. Bring it back to your marketing hub where you can do things like I'm sure you guys have talked on the show about retargeting Facebook. Facebook Pixel and AdWords retargeting, and where you can have call to actions and all sorts of stuff, so you can build your website asset more. And the more you build it out, the more SEO equity it gets, the more traffic it gets, the more it ranks in search engines, and you have this asset that becomes a lead generator for yourself, again, than just a digital brochure.
But that takes, that's around the other topic that we wanted to discuss, which is evergreen content. And what we mean by that, folks, is that there's content that you can produce which Google will find extremely attractive, which you don't have to constantly change. You can just leave it and then periodically update it. Where do you see the importance of evergreen content when it comes to agent website that's trying to attract local leads in a specific area or community, Phil?
So I've got two ways that we approach this. One, I do think kind of the evergreen, and we kind of marry that up with something that's more authoritative in terms of being longer form content, being really educational, almost more like a guide, or something where somebody can actually get educated and read through it, just be a longer form post. We try and do more of those for ourselves and for our clients, maybe once a quarter, or more, because I do think it's still really important. And this is, again, I'm always trying to find ways to hack into results where you can get maybe 10 times ROI versus 1 time ROI. Again, this is another problem I think with digital in general, is everything a lot of times is done without a strategy. It's kind of in this one-dimensional way. But getting back to blogging and evergreen content, I think it's really important for most small businesses, local businesses, to be able to publish at least one decent consumable piece of content on their website at least once a week. And so in our case, we'll publish it up on our website or a client website, let's say, use something like Snap Auto Poster and a schema plugin where we can dress it all up, do all the online SEO to it, hit publish, and then have it distribute out to multiple social media channels without having to do a whole lot of extra work. You almost kind of put that stuff on autopilot, right? So you can grow it out, work on long tail keywords and stuff like that, where we can try and get some better local search based on the keyword.
You're going really fast.
Sorry, man.
And also another thing about our audience
is
that in my experience, 10 years of doing this, like half the words you're using, realtors aren't gonna.
I gotta dial it back.
Aren't going to be able to keep up. So one of those things that you just said that I want to touch on, actually there's a whole bunch, but I'm going to stop you and I'm going to say, I don't subscribe to your theory, just so that you know. I subscribe to Brian Dean's theory of content. I put out content maybe once every other month. What I focus on is super high quality, much longer form content. But you've said 3 different things in the span of a single burst statement there. You said, 1, you want to throw up something once a week. 2, you want to promote it out, but you said you want to grow it out for long tail keywords. I honestly don't even know what you mean by that. Are you saying that you take the same piece of content and you keep working on it, like you produce it every week, then you go back and fine tune it based on keyword recognition?
Great,
is that what you meant?
No, it's a great point. So we want to do a couple of things with our blogging strategy. One is we want to, and the way we do things, it really all comes back to keyword research. I think it's still important. It's not a deprecated strategy. You really have to know what people are searching for and what your ideal clients are searching for. And any content that you build on your website, I think, has to come back to keyword research, and then finding ways to naturally bake that into your site or to use that to come up with content. So once you got the keyword stuff worked on, you're constantly, I guess, trying to figure that out or modify it or tweak it.
And before you move on, actually, Phil, can you give our audience what you mean by keyword research. Can you just give a quick 101 outline why that's important? Because like what Robert says, a lot of our audience are really interested in this subject, but they're not experts in any shape or form, Phil.
Right. So we're going a couple steps back. One is if I've been able to sell people or get them to understand or believe or subscribe to the fact that your website is or should be looked at as a marketing asset, and it makes sense to invest and build pages or put content on it over time and document basically, the work that you do and your knowledge through your website and essentially through your blog, then having keyword research to where you put new content on your website makes a lot of sense, because it tells you where to focus on. So where do you go in terms of keyword? Well, a lot of times people, okay, if you say, a lot of times when you say, hey, Phil, I hear what you're saying about blogging, they just figure out, okay, I'm going to start writing blog posts and putting more posts. More is better. Well, it's not necessarily like that, I think, unless you've actually done some research on who your ideal clients are and what types of keywords that they use to search when they're looking for answers or products or services that are related to what you're doing. So if you wanted to start like blogging more for your local real estate market, well, it would make a lot of sense to use a keyword tool to try and see if you can get any insight under the way people are actually searching for real estate services in Kansas and wherever it is in Kansas City or whatever market that you're in. So, and there's lots of tools you can do that. There's ones you can pay for, like SEMrush or Ahrefs, but there's also some pretty cool tools like within AdWords. I use Keyword Planner a lot. You just go to AdWords is obviously the PPC, pay-per-click platform that Google uses to make all its money. You can go in there, especially if you haven't established an account or used it before, but it's a free tool. You can go in and actually start typing in a couple, 2 or 3 root keywords, pick your geographic territory, and they'll tell me, say, for instance, in Kansas City, they'll give me a whole list of things that people are searching for in and around, say, real estate, buys or homes, what neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff.
I just want to point out to folks that what Phil is saying is there are some free SEO research tools that Google do provide. You do have to, I think I'm correct, I'm sure Robert will correct me on this, I think you've got to set up an AdWords account to have access to that. But they're all free, folks. Another thing, I just want to see if Phil agrees with this. Do you think it's also a good strategy just to have spend a few hours generally looking at the competition, putting yourself in the mindset of the target audience that you want to write, and just see what's out there and write notes and save the URLs of other materials and just see what's out there? What do you think about that, Phil?
Well, I think keyword research really, for people that take a little bit extra time to do it, really does open people's eyes, because at some point you're just like, I want to write about, here blogging, you'll just write about things like you're writing to a captive audience. But if you can see the search behavior and naturally bake that into your work and manage the balance, you can uncork a lot of SEO value that you wouldn't have gotten if you just would have written based on what you want to say versus the way people are thinking. So, but you bring another good point is like, is competitive. How far will people take some of this research in terms of trying to figure out how to get an edge maybe on their website? So we do a lot of competitor research, and Ahrefs is probably my favorite one to look. So if somebody comes on board for us, we're going to take a look into the keyword research. But keyword research is, I think, one of those things where it takes some discovery to figure out, well, what are your marketing goals? What are you going after? Versus, sometimes people will come to us and say, what's your keywords? Well, we like to go and say, well, let's talk about what your business goals and who your ideal client is. And those discussions, doing a little research, will show you who, what types of words, content you might
I personally, the tool that you've mentioned, I know Robert uses it. I don't actually use that myself, but it's a fantastic tool.
Is that too far, though, for most users? Probably not. That's an agency tool more.
That's an agency tool, really. I'm not a SEO. I'm an online marketer. I have a couple other cheaper tools that I use, but it is a superb tool. But I want to get back to things that will really help our audience. And I think this whole subject can be, a lot of agents deal with it, Phil, is by pushing it to one side, because when we start talking this language, it's like, I just can't be bothered with it. But I think the reason why it doesn't have to be so difficult is that if you use the tool that you recommended, which is free, and you also look at the competition, you can also base it on what's going on in your local communities. And if you're like one of your target audiences, maybe people moving into the area, what type of things would those type of people want to know about certain communities and areas in your community which you're serving? Would you agree with that, Phil?
Well, yeah, I think it comes back into the keyword research piece. If you can figure out how people are searching for things, products, and services related to your business in your area, I mean, it's almost kind of giving you the blueprint to reverse engineer your content strategy. Hopefully that answers that piece of that question. But getting back to what Robert was saying, because he really touched on a really, I think, important piece of content marketing in general, the way SEO gets results. Long form evergreen content once in a while, a lot better than thinner content. That's the way the internet, old SEO used to be like lots of pages with very thin content. Now the competitive keywords that are ranking looks a lot narrower, less pages with much deeper content. That is certainly true for, especially when it gets into really competitive stuff. But when we're working at the local level, there's a trade-off with trying to figure out how to get enough content out there where you're staying in front of people on multiple channels, right, and then trying to get people back to the website. So we still think having smaller consumable pieces of weekly content works a lot for local businesses, but having that evergreen content goal maybe on a once a quarter basis where they can invest in that kind of stuff also makes a lot of sense. But I'm gonna take it a step further. One of the other reasons why we do this, and this is probably my top SEO content marketing hack that I have, is we like to do that keyword research. We like to create, based on what we find, a blog series of 10 to 15 posts.
Okay.
So that we can launch them out one at a time in terms of a series on the website and have that consistent presence where we've actually thought about it. Then at the end, stitch them into an ebook that we use as a call to action on the website. Then take it even a step further, because we're really trying to do what I've actually had success doing for myself. And that's leverage content and try and use it as a way to elevate your own personal branding and authority. Take that ebook, spin it into a Kindle, put it up on Amazon, make yourself an Amazon author, get those backlinks in by working the feed into your author page, which there's all sorts of benefits to that. Then for your advanced folks that are really into this and understand the importance of being an authority, even in your local niche, by having a book, is using it to get guested on podcasts, which has lots of benefits, right? When you go in and pitch yourself on podcasts, and there's tons of it, it's hot. It's never been hotter than it is right now, probably. I don't think it's going anywhere. But when you can leverage somebody else's podcast, like for one of our clients, we've got some of them they're going on once, twice, maybe 4 times a month. They're being pitched as an expert in their space. They have a book. A lot of hosts don't understand or care if it's a hardcover book or an ebook or whatever, as long as it's positioned right, and as long as the guest has a way to add value to the audience. But they do a lot of stuff. When you get guests on somebody else's show, it's not like doing a guest blogging type thing where you write 1,000-word posts and you go do a lot of outreach and they reject it and it's getting spammy. The guesting piece, you're getting up on somebody's platform. They're promoting you as an expert. A lot of times they'll do a show notes page. It's about you. There's customized graphics on it. They promote it to their social media channel. There's the best, most natural, organic backlinks you could get probably ever within a niche, depending on how you go after these. So there's this whole process of working it back. Because if you do this from the beginning, you just do a one long form blog post, or you do random blog posts without thinking about this strategy ahead of time, you get this one-dimensional thing that doesn't work. But if you think about it ahead of time, you can't stitch, like, I guess my point is you can't stitch 10 random blog posts together into an ebook and then work it into this authority campaign. So you have to kind of work it. But if you do it ahead of time and put some thought into it, you can really 10x your ROI on the same strategy without a whole lot of extra time. And that's the types of things that we're trying to do is, there's certain things that maybe Brian Dean might do that work at a larger level, that kind of stuff. But there's other things you may have to tweak at a local level for different types of niches that still kind of work. And you're making a trade-off. And I think that's the beauty about SEO is there's no single path to winning. There's different ways to skin the cat.
I
And
totally
think
agree with you. But I want to.
Before we do this, Robert, we've got to go for our break, Robert, and then you
Okay.
can come back when we come back. How does that sound, Robert? We're going to go for our break, folks, and we've had a fascinating discussion already, and I'm sure the second half's even going to be better. We will be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, folks. We've had a bit of a discussion here on SEO. Off you go, Robert.
Okay. So I have a few questions for you. So Phil, can you give me an example of just a quick example of a couple of local businesses that you are actually talking about? So to tie this in for the audience, you're talking about your strategy that you pursue for your clients is you're going to string 10 or 15 blog posts together. They're going to be in a thread. They're going to have a theme that you can then turn into an ebook, and then you can promote the ebook and put yourself as an expert in your space. Give me a couple of examples of local businesses that you've done that for.
We've got one right now that we do. She just put hers up called the Outdoor Living. It's a guide to building like hardscapes and patios and that kind of stuff. Launched her website last. If you looked on Amazon, hopefully if you do Outdoor Living, you'll see it. I'm probably the best example because anything that I do, I'm not smart enough to really just come up with stuff and have to test it. I just do stuff that works for me, and then I end up kind of stringing them together. So obviously the book that we wrote, SEO for Growth, is a lot of repurposed content. A lot of it's freshly written, that kind of stuff, but it's just accumulation of things that we've worked over time. I got another one that this hack really has been super successful for this group of clients. We did a very similar thing, but for a group of lawyers.
Okay.
But in this case, how to hire lawyers, right? I think you guys can see that's how to hire lawyers.
Well, some of our people are going to be listening to us on the straight up podcast, so they can't see it at all.
So this is so that's right. How to Hire Lawyers is a book that we wrote. We got 12 lawyers together, different practices, and they each wrote a chapter on how to hire a lawyer in their niche. So personal injury, bankruptcy, criminal law, and that kind of stuff. So we put all these together. But one of the coolest things that came out of this is one, it was a big group. So it was really awesome. And this is one of the cool things about this hack of getting onto Amazon and making it happen. In this case, since we had a larger group of authors, we were able to time the release of it together to get everybody to beg, borrow, and steal all their network. And since there was 12 of them, there was a lot. So we were able to launch the book and do the marketing effort on Amazon in a short period of time and actually launch this to bestseller status in the category. Mm-hmm. So we made these guys best-selling authors in their space in a way that they can now use this to leverage. And they're starting to now just getting started to get into the podcast, booking. We launched this, I think, last month. And now we're starting to leverage it to try and get them on.
See, what comes to mind really, Phil, what you're saying is like, if let's say you're a real estate agent and you'd like to say you produce some booklet about local communities, there's normally a lot of local radio stations. If you publish something like that gives you a little bit, pushes you out in front than the average agent, you can then probably get on a couple local radio stations, get yourself promoted through that kind of activity. I think that's the type of things you're trying to point out.
It's the ultimate business card. You pass it out. It's authority. When you hold something in your hand like this, I think there's a lot of extra benefits of, you can execute a project. The other guy that was maybe the real estate agent doesn't have a published book type of thing. Yes, it does help you get marketed. It also helps you leave something that, people don't throw away magazines or books a lot. They leave them at least until they thumb through them once. So there's all sorts of benefits on that. But in this case, if you could do it in a way like that we did it here, the biggest benefit that came out of the How to Hire Lawyers book was that we intentionally did this. We put 12 people together that hadn't been referring business to each other. We got them and did a launch party where we had all 12 of them in a room. And now the biggest benefit of that is the referral piece is coming out from putting these guys together and gals together as a part of a book. So now they're kind of their own. You do these things when you work with somebody for yourself or your client. When you publish somebody and make them an author, it's almost feeding into something that everybody has in terms of maybe like a career bucket list type of a deal, milestone type of a deal. So it really does. In our case, even for clients, you're kind of elevating your position with them because you're building their personal branding, their authority, but you also made them an author. I mean, it's a goal, I think, of everybody at some point. Like they think I've thought about writing a book. But it's also one of these super shiny things that really helps them out type of a deal. And I think that it really does differentiate people. But it's also, it works, man. When you launch a website, for instance, like right now on SEO for Growth, it's become a high authority website. You search for things like best SEO tools 2018, or link building services. I mean, our lists and our posts are coming up in the top 1, 2, or 3, and a lot of traffic from that. And that's because when we launched the book, it becomes a launchable piece of content where it naturally attracts a lot of links if you're smart about the way that you distribute it.
So I'm gonna throw in here for a second because one, I do think this idea is brilliant, and two, I love the way you've applied it. But I also have to say that for the vast majority of our audience, it's not applicable, because the only people inside the audience for the real estate space where a strategy like this is probably really going to sing to them is the luxury real estate market. Okay. You have a few luxury real estate parts of the country that would probably do really well with this, like New York, Los Angeles. But there's places in the country, whole states, where they probably couldn't really, truly, successfully, having a book in certain places in Texas is just not going to do that much. You know, you could say, for instance, unless it has to do really specifically with the landscape, like how to buy a ranch, something like that in certain parts of Texas, like Plano and things of that nature. So I'm going to actually ask you, but I'm going to ask us all to step back a few paces, because we were talking to you about evergreen, and you mentioned you were talking about thin content versus I can't remember the language that you used, but it might have been more sustainable content, or you might have said deeper pieces of content. You know, I'm curious to know what you think. Define for me, in your own words, what a thin piece of content is. How would you define that versus an evergreen? Like, what are the differences in a thin content post versus an evergreen post, according to Phil?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know I think the definition on this could vary a lot, but when I think of an evergreen piece of content, I think of something that's really thorough. It's got a lot of reference pieces in it, maybe some of your own case studies and research on it that can be added to and built to. So it's not, when I think of evergreen content, I don't think of something that's done once and then used forever. Because I think if you're really going to be evergreen, you're ever working on making it better. And this is another Brian Dean thing. We'll come in, and a lot of folks are now go in and see with the research, back it up, make it better and better and better, and keep working on it. Not every blog post that you do might warrant that kind of work and effort, but I think a longer form blog post goes much deeper into maybe a topic area and almost becomes like an educational piece, or almost like a guide, is how I think I would invest more in terms of an evergreen content. One piece I did actually, I was going to put out as a ebook, but it ended up being, I think, 6,000 or 8,000 words. And I said, you know what, I'm going to make this as a long form, piece and start adding to it as a core thing. And that's how I think of it. But we work with, I work with a bunch of companies. One of my work is called the Content Company, who help. They're basically third party writers that, you can get somebody to write good content for you for 5, 10 cents a word type of thing. Cause that's the biggest challenge for a lot of business, especially real estate agents, is no small business that we have, including myself, writes all their own content all the time. I get help doing it. I have people, I come back and edit it and add to it and stuff, but I do have people write for me on certain things, and almost all of our clients do, because there's just no way they would produce it in-house. But my point in talking to some of these other folks that have lots of agencies as clients is I know they're getting a lot more requests for longer form pieces, because I think people see the benefit in terms of, building the authority up. But also I think, in our book, I think we quoted SERPstat said in 2014 that, the average, I think, @1 post was across the internet was 2,200 words or something like that. So you don't want to get too far into the number, because some people, aren't going to don't want, if you have something to say that's more topical, or you don't need 2,200 words for every post to do that, nor do you have the time. You got to think about where's the return on it. But yeah, I think that it definitely works, and it makes a lot of sense. The way we try and build stuff now is, I think if you go back, and this is probably another big hack, is we do a lot based on what Google says you should do in the Google Search Quality Evaluators Guidelines. Okay, right. That's a 160-page document that Google gives to an army of 10,000 people that literally go on a daily basis and check the quality of search results, that manually check the algorithm. Inside of this document, Google hammers these people, they're not rocket science they're trying to train. These are like average people that just are trying to make 10 or 20 bucks an hour. They tell them what to focus on a website, and they use acronyms. And the one they use the most is called EAT, expertise, authority, and trust.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the things that I think of. Okay, people talk about this and that, but what are the things that you should really be focusing on your website that establish these goals? Because if Google's spending 160 pages and all this money to train people, I mean, that's the window into the algorithm right there. That's what they want you to put onto it. So if they're telling you to put these elements on, then that's what we do. So long form content, I think, is one way to accomplish and build expertise, authority, and trust into your website. But I also think having other things like more consistent flow of posts, and actually building a social media channel where you're able to drip feed them decent content on a consistent basis also is one of those things that helps you build expertise, authority, and trust on your website.
That's great, Phil. We're going to wrap it up for the podcast part of the show, folks, but Phil's agreed to stay on and answer some more questions. I think in the bonus content, folks, which you'll be able to listen and watch on the MailRight website, is that we're going to ask Phil about the difference between local SEO and also my partner.
You're going to drill me some more.
Yeah, no, and we're going to give an example of everything that Phil's going to be talking about, because I found a good one, and it's going to be a shameless plug for him, and everybody should like it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Robert. So, Phil, if people want to find out more about you and what you're up to, Phil, what's the best online places for them to find out more about you?
SEO for Growth, the official book site. You can get it on Amazon, but if you go back to the website, we've got a nice bundle that Larry Kim gave us, an ebook that we gave away with it on the book, and also there's an ebook on website SEO from the guys at Yoast. So SEOforgrowth.com, kcwebdesigner.com. It's kind of the home base. It pays the bills, man. That's the little website that could, that I've been working off of for the last, 12, 13 years. And I started another business with John Jantsch, who's my co-author on the book, called Podcast Bookers, because I've had success with it. We do that now too. I truly think this is something people could do their own outreach for if they wanted to get started on it. But it's been the best thing that's happened to my whole business, and biggest bang for the buck that we've done really is getting guests on great shows like yours. And I think everybody can do that to some extent to establish themselves an authority. But we have developed podcastbookers.com to do that. But I think it's something you could do on your own, really, to get started, type of thing, if you didn't want to hire a service. And we're not the only ones that do. There's other good ones out there as well. But I think this is a great hack. So check it out.
Thanks for that, Phil. And Robert, how can people find out more about you, Robert, and your services?
Just go to inboundrem.com.
That's great, thanks. And you want to find out more about MailRight, just go to mail-right.com. I showed Robert our recent updates. I think I blew him away, actually. He understands the madness of our platform, folks. And we'll be back next week with a great guest about technology and real estate, and how using the latest technology can help you build a great real estate business. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Right, Phil. Off you go, Robert. What you wanted to say?
Actually, this is just to kick off our bonus content here. So Phil's been talking to us a lot about his definition of evergreen content. He has this great plan for rolling out a long series of blogs. You can find a great example of him having done that. He's mentioned a number of times in this podcast. I have been looking on another screen and have looked it up myself. But if you Google link building service, you will find an example of him doing a top 10 list. And it's called SEO for Growth. It's like number 4 on the page. And you'll see a real good example of what he probably considers to be evergreen content, since he put it on his own website. And also it's ranking. And then if you are a user of Ahrefs, and I know the vast majority of our audience will not be, I strongly suggest that you go and you put his SEO for Growth website into Ahrefs, and you can start to see what he's talking about in a very specific way in terms of link building on a page-by-page basis, which I'm finding fascinating as I'm talking to you, because I'm looking at it on my other screen, and I'm seeing how you've used podcasts and some other ways to build backlinks into some of these pages, which is fascinating for me. It's that's really super high level advanced stuff, though, and I doubt most of our audience actually, but I would not be able to follow that. But anyway, I have been able to.
Right.
Well, you guys have an expert on your show on SEO, so it's nice to be able to get, that somebody can go in and because a lot of people come out there and and I think like you can't, like SEO guys in the past are always going to be, skeptical. I think it's a lot of change in terms of everybody kind of being a lot more positive and stuff, right? But people do get pitched SEO services all the time. There's a lot of snake oil out there. So when you got somebody like Robert that knows what he's talking about and is an obvious SEO expert, he can boil down and see like, is this guy's stuff valid? And he was able to like boil it down really quickly because there's tools out there that he knows how to use to be able to see if stuff's valid or not. So shout out to Robert on that.
So let's delve on, what are some of the differences in 2018 between getting a result in a local with Google and local SEO, then maybe regional and national SEO? Are there real differences? And maybe you can give a short list of what they are, Phil.
I still think having a consistent, weekly blogging strategy that's intentional and makes sense and maybe goes after some certain things can work. In the old days for local SEO, you'd have a plumber that would literally have a thin page that's repeated with the same exact content and would just go like try and hit like 50 cities in a metro area, right? It was the same thing. The pages were just built only to rank only for the search engines and only for the page. So that stuff doesn't work and get you in all sorts of trouble right now. Google's got algorithms to sniff that kind of stuff out. But going and writing a blog post about a project that you did in a specific neighborhood that goes into detail and shows and has images on it and builds it out and works those keywords in is a very viable strategy. So if you're a real estate agent and you've sold houses in a particular like neighborhood or something, there's no reason why you couldn't write a blog post out about something very specific, maybe a zip code or a neighborhood, not necessarily a zip code, but maybe a city or suburb or even a specific neighborhood that you're trying to target and talk about it, not just like trying to put something spammy up. I think that kind of stuff still makes sense and still can work for lots of different cities. I think the biggest thing, and this is huge in real estate right now, I think, in terms of a gap, because I just recently did my own top 10 list, which I'll talk about next really quickly. But one of the things I noticed here in the Kansas City area is almost no real estate agents really put an effort into working on their online reputation. Specifically, they don't work on getting reviews on Google. Yet I can see by the search activity with some of the tools that we mentioned, people search online for Google real estate stuff all the time. Yeah, they're on other places, but a lot of times they'll search and they'll look, and maybe they'll land on one of the major aggregators like a Zillow or something like that. But they're still doing a lot of Google type searches. And the maps results will show up a lot. But I see real estate agents with like 1 star or 4 stars or something. I mean, the one thing that we tell everybody that without hesitation, I don't care what business you're in, but I think especially real estate, is you should be working on your reputation all the time. Because the holy grail of local SEO is showing up organically and having more reviews than anybody else. So when you type in Kansas City web design in here, we show up organically all over the place. We've got as many or more reviews than anybody else. That's the thing that helps the phone. It doesn't matter if it's real estate or not. So one of the things that we do, which is a great hack, which you can get anywhere, I use grade.us. There's a couple different ones that you can use. Get 5 stars is another one, where you establish a review funnel for yourself, where you can send somebody to a separate mini site, make a habit of asking people all the time if you can get reviews and send them to the places that are going to make sense. Is it Facebook? Is it Google? Is it Google Plus? I think everybody should be working on Google Plus all the time. But if you're a real estate agent and you go from 0 reviews to 20 or 30 reviews on people, it will change. It will make the phone ring. There's just no question about it.
Well, I totally agree with you, Phil. And funny enough, Mailrite has an inbuilt testimonial review game.
So boom. So you guys already got it, and you're already ahead of the game. There's all sorts of ones. Yours is probably better for the real estate agent market because you guys focus on that niche. But part of it though is also just you got to, once you have a client that comes in and hears that I'm only calling you because your reviews are so good, all of a sudden they become all about reviews and it becomes like that thing. But you have to get people to that point where they buy it in. Otherwise, it's like we all buy on reviews, but when it comes to our business, we just forget it. You know what I mean? It's like
I think you said some fantastic, powerful things, and it's area that a lot of agents, for some reason, are a little bit blind to. What do you reckon, Robert?
In terms of, social proof is one of my favorite concepts. In terms of my own local strategies for inbound REM, I have close to 50 reviews. I work my ass off to get them. I don't get small reviews. I get, 100, 200, 300 word reviews. I double down on video reviews for my own business. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, I agree with Phil. I think that in terms of actual local results, you get a lot with Google. I think that Google has figured out a way to look at not only the quantity, but the quality of the reviews that you're getting, as long as you're putting them on. I personally do it on my Google My Business page, and I've seen massive results with that. I get close to 1,000 visits to my Google local page every month. And that just from that, not from my search engine stuff, not from anything else, just from my local. So I think it's important. But I think more importantly, to me at least, I think it's what it communicates to the people that actually see them. And that's what I'm all about. It's what does that say to you about as a business person? I don't think enough people focus on that. These days, I look for social proof when I'm trying to find a vendor. I see, is there a video of a customer talking about this guy that's going to come out and paint my house? I want to watch it. I'm not joking. Like everything I do in terms of how I consume services, I look for what have other people said, and is it credible? Like, is it more than a couple words? Is there a video somewhere? Like I look. Like I don't want to spend my money or waste my money or waste my time. I'd rather do a few minutes of research. I feel like most people are just like me if they know how to use the tools.
We're all out there. We're looking. Everybody wants the whatever it is. You want the plumber, the planner, the inbound guy, the web design, whatever it is. And if you can put that up clearly and show people that social proof, you just differentiate yourself and you take the risk out of it. And it's like, and if Robert's doing it and I'm doing it, we're not doing it unless it's paying dividends. So again, my whole thing is I only sell to my clients what I'm doing for myself. So if I'm telling people I'm doing guesting, so I show my client because it works for me. I'm starting to do my own podcast this year because it's me fantastic access. And, I had somebody try and do locally. I'd never done any outbound marketing. I hired somebody for 4 months to hit the phone. So I figured we got such great track record. We got a book and all this kind of stuff. If we just call people and tell them we exist, we're going to get all sorts of new clients, ideal clients. None. We got one meeting. I paid a lady who had a little bit of sales experience for 4 months straight. Nothing. Of course, now when we call up locally and say, hey, CEO, do you want to be on the Local Business Leaders podcast? Guess what the response rate is on that? It's like 80%. Yeah. So it's just one of these things where you do access stuff. So I'm doing podcasts, trying to get my clients to do that too for access and that kind of stuff. So it's the same deal. But the social proof, man, I think that's the lowest hanging fruit. It's most people don't do it. If you work it into your daily routine, it makes you better at what you do because you're going after them. And if you look at a potential client as a review, you're going to always be on your best behavior because you're going to ask them later. So it makes you and your staff better at what you do anyway. And then once you document it online on a place like Google Plus or even Facebook or LinkedIn, man, you just gave the due diligence and the proof people need to come either piping hot to you, or maybe sometimes they're just like, we know you're the guys, tell us what it costs type of thing. And it really helps.
And I think to kind of wrap up our conversation, the censure hub from all this activity that hopefully folks you've been listening, we've been covering, should be your website, shouldn't it, Phil? And, when it comes to real estate, obviously having a good searchability on the latest properties, having landing pages that gather details, having good lead magnets, and having this evergreen content that we've been hammering around comes to actually getting traffic to that website and then having the ability to convert it. What do you think about that, Phil?
I think you summed it up elegantly and perfectly. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. The only comment I would make on real estate, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this, is it really does seem that most of the ones, this could be something that's in Kansas City, most of them are at a disadvantage because they come into the business thinking all they need is a simple website on one of the real estate, like $30 a month platforms, or maybe just a page on whatever the main website is. And they don't have their own asset or don't maybe invest in the stuff. To me, in some ways, and I go, you guys are probably helping a lot of folks, but I think it's an underserved market. And I think people don't realize, and I've talked to a couple of real estate agents and they're just like, they almost throw in the hat locally in terms of like, oh, well, we're never going to be able to rank for, Kansas City real estate agent, but you can. I mean, if you have a good website that's got a lot of local stuff and you just make a habit of putting that stuff on and working on it, you can beat some of these ones that seem like they're, they can't be.
Well, I agree with you, and I'll see what Robert, and then we wrap it up, is that a lot of the portal sites that we've mentioned, their problem is that they tend to be a bit shallow, don't they, with the content.
Yes.
So if you can provide, which is the theme of our discussion really, Phil, which is evergreen content, that is the whole purpose. What do you reckon, Robert?
Actually, so Phil, we have subtly steered the conversation in a certain way, because one of the things that I try to do, and I know that John, or at least I believe that John has agreed with me philosophically, is that real estate agents, unfortunately, are miseducated, and they're also given bad messaging by some of the marketing companies they're using. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of good marketing funnels right now in real estate, and there's nothing wrong with them. But what they do is they give you a splash page, and they send leads to that splash page, and then they generate a low quality but high volume lead. And that's great. That's a fantastic service to put out there. However, to say that replaces a website is completely ridiculous, or it's at least not a great marketing proposition in terms of a broad marketing strategy. And yet that's the information that a lot of real estate agents are being given. And they're not only being given but they're being given that information in a number of different places, in a number of different ways. And you have to imagine that the average real estate agent comes into real estate without a huge amount of experience. I'd say 95% of the time, very low digital experience. So they're being given a lot of different information by people that are supposed to know what they're talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, these people that are speaking with the voice of expertise on, let's say, digital marketing, they're funnel experts. And so they say, nah, I don't know that you really need a website. You just need a funnel. And it's like, no, not really. It kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to generate leads and that's all you want to do, sure, funnel might work for that. But if you also want to do like what we're talking about, social proof, and build a long-term platform that you control and you own to create more value for your business, you need a website. There's no doubt. There's no argument. But it just depends on what you want to do. So we're subtly throwing that message out here on the show, and maybe not so subtle anymore. But anyway, that's why we're asking you the questions and trying to get your, we've had funnel experts on here in the past, and kind of trying to get everybody's opinion. But it's a sad thing to me, John, sorry to go on about it for so long, but so many people giving out so much bad information or incomplete.
Well, I think having MailRite, part of our system is supplying landing pages. But where I differ, and I know that you agree also, Robert, is that I still feel that the agents should invest in a website which allows them to do all the things that Phil has outlined in this great discussion. We're going to wrap it up now, Phil. You've been a great guest.
Thank you so much.
This has
been awesome. I really appreciate it, guys.
We've asked you some tough questions, but
yeah, I love it.
Very professionally, and you've been a great guest. And sometimes
no softballs at all. I really appreciate that.
No, not at all. But hopefully, you will agree to come on the show. Like 6-7 months time, and we can have another feast about this. So we're going to wrap it up now, folks, on the bonus content, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the MailRite Show. Bye, folks.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.